It's like trying to describe a sunrise to someone who insists the world is always dark. You paint the colors, the warmth, the expanding horizon, but they only hear darkness with extra steps. And the tragedy is that you keep trying anyway. We do this because we believe understanding brings peace. But explaining yourself to someone trapped in illusion is like pouring water into a bottomless cup. It drains you endlessly and fills nothing. You walk away empty, and they walk away unchanged. There are people who listen to respond, not to understand. People who interpret your silence as guilt, your boundaries as disrespect, your clarity as arrogance. To them, your truth isn't information, it's a threat. And what happens when someone feels threatened? They twist your words, question your motives, rewrite your story in real time. Suddenly, you're not explaining your thoughts, you're defending your existence. But the moment you open your mouth, you step into a trap, because illusion can't be reasoned with. Illusion survives by distorting everything it touches. And if you keep participating in it, eventually you start doubting yourself. So let's explore the deeper truth. People don't hear you according to your clarity. They hear you according to their consciousness. And if someone's inner world is built on fear, insecurity, or ego, your words will pass through filters you cannot control. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that changes your reflection depending on who's looking at it. You try to show your true face, but the mirror insists on showing a distorted version. How long before you realize the problem isn't you? Some people don't want your explanation. They want confirmation of their assumptions. If they've already decided you're wrong, no amount of honesty can fix it. You are arguing with a closed door that's pretending to be a person. The world is full of people trapped in illusions. Illusions about who they are, who you are, what life is, and how reality works. And when your truth threatens those illusions, they defend the illusion, not the relationship. Sometimes people don't understand you because if they did, they'd have to change. They'd have to confront their shadows, their patterns, their projections. So they reject your truth, not because it's false, but because it's inconvenient. When you waken, even slightly, your presence becomes disruptive to those who haven't. You become a mirror that reflects too clearly especially sharp reflection. Trying to explain yourself to someone who refuses to see you is emotional quicksand. The more you move, the deeper you sink. Your explanations become apologies. Your boundaries become negotiations. Your truth becomes exhaustion. And here's the most painful part. You begin to think their misunderstanding is your failure. You start editing yourself to be digestible, acceptable, agreeable. You trade authenticity for approval without even noticing. But there is a turning point, a moment of awakening. It usually comes quietly, almost like an exhale. You realize everything I'm saying is being wasted on someone who is not even in the same conversation. And that realization is the birth of freedom. Because the truth is, you don't owe explanations to anyone who approaches you with a closed mind. Silence can be an act of self-respect. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your power. You stop scattering your energy like confetti at people who can't hold anything you give them. You redirect it inward where it actually matters. Silence is not a retreat, it's a decision, a declaration that says, I value my peace more than your perception. That is not selfish, that is sanity. When you withdraw from the argument, something remarkable happens. The person who demanded endless explanations is left alone with their assumptions, and for the first time, they must face the silence they used to drown out with conflict. And here comes the twist. Your silence teaches more than your words ever could. Because words can be dismissed. Silence cannot. Silence forces truth to echo. The people who truly care will feel your silence and come closer with curiosity and respect. They'll ask, not accuse. They'll listen, not react. These are your people. But the people who only wanted control will panic. They'll accuse you of arrogance, manipulation, coldness. But understand, they are not angry because you said nothing. They are angry because your silence reveals everything. Once you stop explaining yourself, the world becomes quieter. You see the games for what they are. Projections, fear responses, ego battles, masquerading as conversations. You step out of the circus and become the observer, not the performer. And with every explanation you refuse to give, you reclaim another piece of your soul. You discover how much of your inner peace was leaking through conversations that never deserved your voice. There's an immense strength in speaking only when your words can build, uplift, or clarify something real. Anything else is noise. And your spirit was not born to be background noise in someone else's illusion. When you stop explaining yourself, you start understanding yourself. You begin hearing your own intuition louder than their objections. You realize how much of your life was spent translating yourself into languages people never intended to learn. And slowly, You understand a profound spiritual truth. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is meant to join you. Not everyone is meant to walk your path. Your soul expands when you stop trying to shrink it for others. This isn't about superiority, it's about alignment. You can love people from afar without letting their confusion define you. You can care without collapsing. You can be present without being drained. So ask yourself now, who are you still explaining yourself to, and why? What are you hoping to receive that they have never once given? Understanding, respect, validation, those are gifts, not obligations. Your truth does not need defending. Your boundaries do not need approval. Your inner knowing does not require permission to exist. If someone can't see your heart, explaining it louder won't help. There are people out there who will understand you instantly, effortlessly, beautifully, without footnotes, disclaimers, or self-defense. These are your real connections, the ones aligned with your frequency. Waiting for such people is not loneliness. It is discernment. It is choosing the quality of your world over the quantity of your audience. It is honoring the sacredness of your energy. The day you stop explaining yourself is the day you stand fully in your power. You become unmoved by projections, untouched by drama, and uninterested in illusions. You rise into a higher clarity, and in this clarity you discover peace. Deep, grounded, unshakable peace. A peace that doesn't depend on being understood. A peace that belongs to you alone and cannot be taken by anyone's confusion. Because ultimately, explanation is a form of seeking acceptance, approval, love. But awakening means seeing that what you sought was inside you all along, not in their understanding, but in your own truth. When you step into this truth, you no longer chase validation. You embody presence. You choose silence, not out of fear, but out of freedom. You realize that your life is not a courtroom and you are not on trial. You become someone who moves through the world gently but firmly, connected but not entangled, kind but not available for every emotional demand. You honor your own boundaries like the sacred lines they are. And eventually you'll look back at your old self, the one who over-explained, over-apologized, over-justified, and you feel compassion. You see how hard they tried, how deeply they wanted to be seen, and you whisper, "You're free now." So let this truth settle into your bones. You do not need to explain yourself to people trapped in illusion. Your peace is more valuable than their understanding. Your energy is more precious than their approval. Your life is yours, beautifully, irrevocably yours. And in the quiet space